What are some challenges in today's winemaking that have big consequences in the future? Welcome to the third episode of the second season of Winemaking Experiences by Enartis, the podcast dedicated to the world of winemaking. In this episode, we are joined by the co-founder of Winegrid, Rogerio Nogueira. We will explore how smart monitoring solutions are revolutionizing the winemaking process, providing real-time remote sensors that help winemakers to optimize cellar operations, achieve greater precision, and ensure consistently high-quality results. Let's find out together how cutting-edge technology is transforming the wine industry.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Winemaking Experiences by Enartis. My name is Sara Ferreira, I'm Enartis Strategic Business Manager, and I'm here today with someone very special. He is Portuguese, he is the father of two, owns a cat, is a fierce supporter of Benfica, loves a good Douro wine, and also has a background in physics, was a professor, is a PhD, and found Winegrid, co-founder of Winegrid. I'm here today, guys, with Rogerio Nogueira. Hello, Rogerio.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How have you been?
Fine. It is a pleasure to be here with you and to talk with you about Enartis, Winegrid, and all of what you are going to ask me.
Of course, I have very good questions for you.
Good.
First of all, why Winegrid?
The name or the company?
The company.
We created Winegrid because we found out that looking at the winemaking process, we found out that it was being done in a quite traditional way, with labor-intensive operations. And with the background that we have in different other processes that was needed, that was helpful to have digitalization, we understood that creating new data-driven approaches for the winemaking could help to turn these processes and the phases of winemaking more efficient. So we created Winegrid to help winemakers to do what they do the best, which is the wine.
Okay, so you mentioned something very important there, digitalization. Can you explain what digitalization is for, like we explain things to our grandmothers, and why digitalization in the wine industry is a plus?
Basically, digitalization, the way we look at it in winemaking, is bringing new tool to measure actual processes and phase of winemaking, because nowadays you have different processes. Some of them are being manual measured, others are not measured at all. So you cannot actually control the process very well. And digitalization is all about bringing a data-driven solution, an advanced technology solution to winemaking to help to bring new insights about the winemaking process. So basically, we are giving a high at the process that allows you to know what you did not know before. So when you have some process like fermentation or press, where you can, when you start to actually know in real time what is happening, to actually see all the process from beginning to the end. It's when you start to actually get knowledge about that.
So what, like digitalization in the wine industry, in this case you mentioned the fermentation. Can you tell us about, what is the digitalization giving to a winemaker when he is using the Winegrid technology? What is that information? What is that data that he's getting?
So basically, let's look at all the processes: press, fermentation, maturation. So in all of them, you can act more proactively. You can get. Let's talk about fermentation, for example. In fermentation, if you start to have data in real time, if you have a machine that is looking at your fermentation processes all of the time and lets you know now your kinetics is lower than expected. Maybe you are getting a stuck fermentation very soon. Okay, so you can proactively detect that process needs to be adjusted very quickly. So it allows you to be more proactive, less reactive. So this will help in different processes. It will help to increase the quality. It will help to turn your process more efficient because you don't need to correct that. So this is what Winegrid is bringing. It's bringing a powerful tool to winemakers to actually do what they do the best. Okay, just look at the creativity and don't lose focus with the operation process.
So more decision-making power and less reactivity, like being less reactive to what happened and being able to take decisions up front.
Exactly. It takes the burden of, if you think about the chaos that happens during the fermentation process, we need to take the operation that you need to focus on taking samples to measure the density, for example. If you can take all of that away from the winemaker, you just need to focus on educated decisions that are based on precise data, historical data, data that can help them to choose, okay, now it's the time to do this action, now it's the time to do that action. So this is, for me, it's a big change in the winemaking industry. So this is a new era that you are facing now.
To understand a little bit the beginnings, how was it born? Like Winegrid, the idea of using the sensors, like you're a professor, you're a co-founder of Winegrid. Tell us about the founders of Winegrid, the people that built this company from the beginning, and this initial idea, like what was the seed to create it?
Basically, I was a professor and research at the university in the field of sensors. So I was dealing with different types of sensors for different applications. So at that time, I already had the intuition and the understanding how important is to measure processes, how helpful those processes were helping other industries. And I'm talking about other industries at all. I'm talking about injection molding. I'm talking about the cement, dental cement curing, different type of process that bringing sensors to those processes improve the process dramatically. So at that time, I was with Lucia Bilro, my co-founder at Winegrid. So she was doing a postdoc with me at the university, and I challenged her to, because we found out some opportunities with some sensors that we were working on. So I challenged her to go in this crazy path of creating a company. So leaving the comfort of a nice position at university and do like a maniac and crazy to this adventure. So it was at that time really interesting. But this also came to a desire, a desire to actually make things happen, to help the society. Because sometimes when you are on a research position, you don't impact directly the society. You impact at the long term, yes, with a new scientific knowledge, but an immediate impact, I found out it was more interesting to be on a company to actually make it real, to make it happen. So that's, again, I challenged Lucia. At that time, the company is a Winegrid, so at that time we were focused on water, on monitoring water. And I always joke that at some point we found out that wine is better than water.
Very biblical.
Yeah, exactly. So, and during the process of the company, we start to look at the wine sector, the process of wine sector, start to talk with the different winemakers and start to understand all of them were complaining about their process, their labor-intensive cost of the processes, the way that they feel that they could improve, but they did not know how. Okay. And looking at that, we saw different opportunities in terms of, there are many things that we can do. So basically, we created a Winegrid, okay? And actually started from scratch because all of our previous sensors that we have developed we need to create new sensors because the focus of Winegrid was to be a specific custom designed solution for winemaking. So that means that we need to create new sensors, new platforms, all designed just to improve the winemaking process.
Okay, that's great. From water to wine.
Yeah,
very good.
Now I have water here, but yeah.
We can have wine very soon. So let's get into the detail of the sensors. I mean, like we talked about the general idea of digitalization, that it's really like technology is there to make our lives simpler, our processes more fluid, more cost effective, more precise. And this technology, digitalization on the digitalizing the winemaking processes, what exactly are we digitalizing? What do the sensors measure? Can we go in the sensors? Let's talk about fermentation. And what do the sensors measure and how do they work?
So basically, the fermentation process, it's a process that everybody knows, that it's the conversion of the sugar to alcohol with the yeast. It's a common knowledge. And the winemakers today, they need to actually accurately see that evolution, how the process is going on. And they take density measurements to know the balance between sugar and alcohol. And that's what we look at that. So we actually develop a sensor that can give you a very precise and accurate measurement of density in the fermentation, okay? Also temperature, and as a bonus, you also provide the volume, okay, the quantity of liquid that you have in the tank. The most important parameter is the density and temperature. So with those two parameters, we can actually know how the full process of fermentation is going in terms of kinetics. If it's going slow or fast, if you need to speed it up, if you need to adjust the process. And with the information of volume, you will have additional traceability information. So it will be registered if you add some products or if you did some pumping over. So all of the process that you know stay registered and at the same time monitored in real time.
Okay.
That's for the fermentation process.
So basically is what we do, like whoever has ever worked in a cellar knows and is listening knows what I'm talking about. So we go from the lab with our little vials with stickers on them, number of tank. We go there, we sample the tank, we go back to the lab, temperature, density, we log that into an Excel, and then we build our density curve, and then we can have an idea of our kinetics. So this is what Winegrid is proposing, like digitalizing that and having that information available to you.
Basically, take that piece of paper that you are taking. It's very easy to make the math. So if you have 100 tanks, and if you take a measurement one time per day, it's 100 measurements that you take per day. 100 measurements, 100 samples that you take, that you measure, that you need to compensate, that you need to take in a piece of paper, that you put it to the lab, that you analyze, as you said, put in the Excel. And still, with all of this work, you just take one measurement per day. So if you measure at 2 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, if by some reason there is a stuck fermentation at 2 p.m., you don't know.
Yeah, it's easy to see that. Like everybody involved in winemaker can see that. Like I myself have personally been in the position of the lab analyst and also in the assistant winemaking part. And on both sides, like this is revolutionary because you either take 2 or 3 hours to really sample entire cellar, or the winemaker is waiting for those results.
Yes.
And when I think about this technology, we're still talking about fermentation sensors. When I think about it, I always have this image of driving a car looking at the rear mirror. Because when you're taking the decisions of what you're going to do with that tank, with the information that you got 3-4 hours ago, because by the time you get that curve, on your Excel, it's been 3 or 4 hours that the tank kept fermenting while you were, right? So it's kind of, I think that's where we see clearly the decision-making power that it gives to you. Like, you can only imagine a winemaker arriving at their shift in the middle of harvest, logging in the system, and ta-da, he has all his fermentation kinetics and everything there, and can just start deciding, like, does this tank need nutrient? Does this tank need ferment? What's going on?
And you touch in an interesting point, which is previously when you take the manual data and you look at that, if there is any problem with the fermentation, you are just comparing the data taken today at 9 a.m. with another point taken yesterday at 9 a.m. And at some point, sometimes if there is something differently, you don't know if it is actually a problem or if it was some error in the measurement. If you need to take another measurement, so you need to go again, back again, because it's so far away in terms of points that in fact the lag between you actually detect something and the action, it's much bigger than just between 2 points. And that's it. So that's the fact that you can take a measurement every 30 minutes. Deeply allows you to know, and even better, the fact that you have data, that you have a machine that is collating data, you can even trigger an alarm for you. So you don't need to wait if in the middle of the afternoon you already look at the data in the morning, for example, you took a decision, but if at some point there is an issue that is starting to appear in the middle of the afternoon, you can get an alarm for that. So you actually don't need to look at the data every hour. You don't need to be obsessed with that. You just, okay, I took my decisions, that I will rely on the system to let me know if what I am expecting is not happening. If it is not happening, I will get notified.
Very good assistant.
Yes.
Tell me more about the range. I mean, I imagine that the fermentation sensor for tanks was the first one that you guys developed?
Yes, it was between the first ones. Okay, so at that time we were working 2 different sensors, one for the fermentation and another one for the barrels, okay, for the maturation process. That is also a demand from the winemakers, though there was this issue about actually measuring, knowing the headspace, the headspace, the loss for the topping up, because some wineries were not aware. They need to go barrel by barrel to check how is the level, and to very manually, and as you know, if you open the bind, you are getting additional
There is a risk
oxygen,
every time you touch that. Yeah.
Exactly. So there was also demand for that. So in parallel, we were developing the e-bank, to actually give you information about the headspace, about the loss, and the temperature. So that was another sensor that we developed at that time.
For la part des anges, as the French say.
Yes, yes, the angel's share.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very. I did not knew that term when I started to be in the wine sector. I understood, but Sarah, actually we have a customer that it's impressive the results that he achieved using our sensors for the maturation process.
Yes.
We have a customer in South America that was taking information about the headspace, and what they found out is that they were losing a lot of money by the evaporation of the wine. And they could start to correlate with another sensor that we have, which is a smart cellar. It's a system that takes the information of your cellar, of humidity and temperature, and the CO2. And with that, they could correlate how much wine they were losing with the temperature and humidity. And this allowed them to understand, now we have to do something. And they actually did. They make their calculations. They were losing a lot of money with that. They changed, they put a climate control in the process, they changed the system. An investment in that climate control system was paid itself by the amount of wine that the angel share that reduced it. Sorry for the angels, but for sure this was an improvement. That's what I say. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. So only when you start to get data, you start to realize things. And this is a very interesting example of a decision taking based on a problem that they not even knew that they had. Okay. They just realized that they had a problem, and they managed to correct based on data. So that's a specific example of what we have.
Mm-hmm. So fermentation sensor, aging sensor for barrels, yes. This environmental sensor for cellars. What else?
Okay, so we are working for other solutions. Okay, for the press, for example, we have been working to release to also optimize the press. Okay, to take information about color, turbidity, flow, conductivity, so lots of information about the press during the press process. This is also very interesting because for the pilots that we have, so we are still in the release phase, so we are still in pilots optimizing the sensor. We understood that there is a huge opportunity to improve this process, okay? Because if you smash it too much, the grape, you are getting some components that you don't want, right? If you don't smash it enough, you are not getting the full
not enough yield.
Optimizing. We got an example where we, for a white wine, that the process of extracting the juice took longer than needed. But with the data that we collected, we understood that the press could have stopped a few hours before. Mm-hmm. The amount of juice that you would collect was was negligible.
Wouldn't change.
Okay? But you would improve the quality because of in terms of oxidation, of all of that, energy consumption, energy consumption also. So all of this could be optimized if they could get data in real time about this.
You touched a very interesting topic there, energy consumption.
Yeah.
Because sustainability, it's been a topic for many, many years and it's not getting old, right? Like every year is just getting bigger and bigger. How are the sensors, how can the sensors help the sustainability management in a winery?
Any process that you can digitalize, that you can understand better, because having data with you, you start to get knowledge about that process. You understand it. You understand where it's more efficient, where it does not get as efficient as possible. So when you start to know this process, you get more efficient. If you are more efficient, you waste less resources on that. An example, in fermentation, if you react later to a stuck fermentation, you need to adjust temperature more intensively. You need to add additional products. So all of this additional resource that you need to add to the process, it's a waste. Because if you add reactively, if you add proactively, adjust with the small adjustments, turns the process more efficient. Okay.
So I guess it improves much more the temperature control in all over the process.
Yes, less energy consumption, less waste, less products waste. In all of them, press, I give you an example of fermentation, the same about the aging process. It's more sustainable to understand that you have everything more controlled. So the fact that you get more resource oriented in terms of management of the process gives you a more sustainable issue. Even in terms of human resources, the fact that you have the human resources more focused on the decision, on the actual valuable decisions, allows that these repetitive tasks be more oriented to actually making the process as efficient as best as possible.
It's a recent, theoretically recent technology. It's been 10 years, right?
Yes.
And I can only, technology never stops. And I can only imagine where it's going to go, the digitalization of these types of processes. How do you see Winegrid in the wine industry, in the beverage industry, in the future, in the next 5-10 years?
Okay. So I see this Winegrid to evolve as any other technologies when they enter a new sector, a traditional sector evolves. So there is an early beginning with early adopters that actually understand that this is a tool, to understand that this is the path to go, to have tools, digitalization tools, to have the data-driven decisions, to have, but at the end of the day, this is a balance, a balance between the artistry, so between the creativity of the process, with new tools. Mm-hmm. I always give the example of the architects. Let's say 30 years ago, the architect, if you ask an architect to create a building for you, the architect, if you say, no, maybe I don't like this, I like a different way, it has to another piece of paper, draw again and do that. And then you say, no, but I'd like to see how it looks in 3D. Then he had to build mm-hmm. Everything, to create a small scale of the process. And then he said, no, I don't like it. Maybe I'd like it that way, another small scale. And nowadays, the architect is the same. It's the same artist, the same name, mm-hmm. but with powerful tools, CAD tools that they can design immediately with a computer. Immediately you see a 3D rendering with all the shadows. You can analyze the temperature, analyze all of that very immediately. So they get more efficient. The quality of their work is much better now. And the artist is the same.
Their creativity is still there.
It's still there. So that's what I see for the winemaking. As soon as these tools get more accessible mm-hmm. to the winemaker, they use them as another tool in a very straightforward way. Not only winemakers, any beverage at all. So, but this specific sector, traditional sector as winemaking, when you start to balance the creativity and the flow of thinking of a winemaker with the balance of tools that help them mm-hmm. to actually achieve what they design, I see many things. I see new flavors being tested, because now you have information about yeast. You know how they will behave, so you can start to think in advance of new flavors, new ideas, and you don't need to think about how I'm going to actually reach that, because you have the tools with you. You just need to concentrate on what you are going to create, and that's what I see in terms of the long term, mm-hmm. in terms of boosting and focusing on creativity, focusing on the design, and less focus on how you are going to achieve that, because let that for the operations of the tools that it's going to arrive.
Processes can be
Yes, so smarter. I see wineries much more efficient, cost reduction, more sustainability in the process, more creativity, new things to appear, and even a new thing that might appear, because even from a business perspective, I think about some specific brands that would like to engage with their customers, giving some insights, maybe not everything, but some insights of how saying your wine was made with this at this period. So give some insights to create some loyalty, to create some engagement with the customer. I see that. I can see a brand creating a specific custom design wine for your winemaking. So it's like bringing a more close experience with winemaking. And this is what these tools will provide. So that's what I believe. We should not be afraid of technologies. We should embrace them and take the advantage of them and think about what this technology can open for you.
It's only the beginning.
Yes, for sure.
Well,
new era is coming for winemaking.
yes. Well, thank you very much, Rogerio. I can see that
Thank you,
Winegrid is really smart technology, like the logo. And yes, thank you very much for all your time, this amazing interview, and sharing with us all about Winegrid.
Thank you, Sarah. It was a pleasure.